Previously on Unscripted.
I feel so bad for Buffalo Bills fans. Like, wide right again.
It's tough. But, I hope that the Bills fans will get their chance to have that feeling, because it's going to be great when they get it.
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip, so today we're going to talk about the Apple show called Severance. But before we get to that, I'd like to tell you something pretty cool that happened to me yesterday. I was listening to the radio station that I listen to every morning, 102.1 The Edge. I think you've actually listened to it sometimes when you're in Toronto.
Only in Toronto, yeah. Jealous of that. Jealous that you have that.
I mean, you could listen to it online from where you are, but, why would you do that? And they often have these contests where you have to call in and you can win tickets to stuff and whatever. So on Fridays, what they do sometimes is the female DJ, she'll sing a song, like a song that that everyone knows, but she'll sing it like the jazz version of the song. So you can't really recognize it right away. Like, oh, I know that song, but it sounds different. Anyway, and you have to name the song that she's singing. So they get the contestant first, and so he's on the air, and she sings the song, and he doesn't know it, which is rare, because usually people get it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it, but I wasn't the contestant, so what could I do? Anyway, when he couldn't get it, they went to the next caller, and that caller said, "Oh, can you sing it again, because I missed it?" And they're like, "No, we can't."
I hate that.
So they went to the next caller, who was me, and I already knew it. So I guessed right, and I won the tickets.
So 2 questions, what were the tickets that you won, and what was the song that you guessed?
The song that I guessed was Bohemian Like You by the Dandy Warhols.
Oh God, I don't even know if I know that. The Dandy Warhols still exist?
I don't know if they still exist, but that's the song. And the concert was the Sam Roberts Band, which the concert was last night. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare.
That's great. That's great. I noticed a stamp on your hand.
Oh, you could see
for
that?
those watching on the live stream. I noticed that when we were just chatting before we hit record. So I figured you went to an event where they stamped you.
I'm surprised you're able to see that, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but there's more to the story. So, in addition to tickets to the concert, part of the prize is you get to go to a meet and greet with the band and sound check in the afternoon.
That's sick.
Except I couldn't go because I didn't know about this till yesterday morning, and the sound check was happening yesterday at 4:30, and I couldn't go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I didn't go to the sound check, but I did go to the concert. But it gets better. We showed up late, which I knew was going to happen because I had a prior commitment that I couldn't get out of. We go to this parking lot near the venue. I've never been to this venue, by the way. I'll tell you about the venue. It's called History. It's only been open for 2 years. It's actually, I believe, owned by Drake.
Oh, okay.
It's a small venue. It only holds 2,500 people. So we go to this parking lot, and because we're late, we're just getting out of the car, and there's a car that's leaving. They roll down their window, and they say, "Oh, here. Don't pay for parking, just use ours," because we still have lots of time left on ours.
Mm-hmm.
So they give us their ticket stub. So the tickets to the concert were free and the parking was free. and these two people had, these special Sam Roberts Band wristbands, which get you into the backstage thing after the show. And they just gave us their wristbands.
That's nuts.
But it gets even better. Well, I'm not sure if it's better, but there's more to the story. So anyway, we go to the concert. It's a great concert. It's actually a very nice venue. Most small concert venues that have been around for a long time, they're good because they're small and the sound's usually good, but they're dingy and dirty and disgusting. You can't go to the washroom at those places. But this place is new and clean, and I was very impressed.
A lot of places were built in the 60s and 70s that still exist, right?
Right. And this thing was, the building might have existed before, but it was completely renovated 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So I was very impressed with the venue, and the sound was very good. Anyway, so we're in and we're enjoying the concert, and we're waiting for the after part because we have these wristbands. And I had not eaten dinner. Again, I told you I had a prior commitment, so I had not eaten dinner, so I was hungry. And now it's like 11 and something o'clock at night. And we go over to the bar wondering if they have any food. But most of these places don't serve food, just drinks. And lo and behold, I see they have pizza. I'm like, pizza at a bar, at a club? This is unheard of. So, and there's only like 4 pieces left, and it's in one of those things that spins and keeps the pizza warm. You know what I...
Yeah,
so like, I'm sure it's not good, right?
It's been there since the silent era.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not good. Anyway, so I'm like, how much is a slice of pizza? So she says it's $9.50. So I'm like flipping out.
Are you kidding?
But before I could even say anything, she's like, but you know what? I'll just give you a piece, because it's like 11 something at night. They're like closing. They want to get rid of their food because they're going to throw it out anyway. So she gave us a slice each. By the way, this might have been the best pizza I've ever tasted in my life.
That's only because you were so hungry.
No. Yes, I was hungry, but there was something about this pizza, like it was a pepperoni pizza, but it was also like it had this sweetness to it, which I can't describe or explain, but it was really good. So free tickets, free parking, free pizza, everything was free. And then we go upstairs and we're just standing around waiting, and we're like, what's going to happen? We didn't know what was going to happen. So it turns out like the band members were just out there mingling with some fans. There were about 100 of us up there, I think, maybe more. And so you're just supposed to, if you know anyone in the band, go talk to them. But I don't know anyone in the band. I mean, I know their names. In fact, we know, you and I know the drummer because we know the drummer's sister. So I see him and I recognize him. So, I go up there, I introduce myself. I tell him my name's Josh, and he says, my name's Josh too, whatever. And then I said, I actually, I know your sister, although I haven't seen her in over 20 years, hope she's doing well. Tell her I said hello, whatever. And then during the concert, I was texting our friend Willem, because I know Willem is friends with Sam Roberts. They used to be neighbors. So I was texting him and he texted me back. Willem actually went to the Sam Roberts concert in Montreal a week earlier. And he sent me some photos of him and Josh, of him and Sam. And so then I showed Josh the photo that Willem had just sent me minutes earlier. I said, do you recognize this photo? Do you recognize this person? He said, yeah, that's from last week in Montreal. That's Willem.
Small world. As big as the world is, it's a small world, right? Amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was a fun night. So now that we've gone on too long about all that, let's get to listener mail.
Mailbag.
I talked to our good friend Derek here from Montreal, and he told me that he was only able to listen to about 12 minutes of our last episode because he hasn't watched Only Murders Season 3. So he only listened to the intro and the final thoughts, and he skipped over all the Only Murders part, but he'll come back to it when he's watched the Season 3.
It's very smart of him to do that, actually.
Yeah. Stephanie from Montreal, got 2 separate messages from her. She said, I love the show, but I didn't love Season 3. We have the same feeling. She said Season 3 was long-winded. She hated Meryl Streep, and she loved Martin Short. And which of the Pickwick triplets did it was the highlight of the show for her, and her daughter could not stop singing it for weeks and weeks. And then she replied after saying, don't badmouth Big Bang Theory. I love that show, LOL.
Okay.
Well, you didn't badmouth Big Bang Theory. It was more to me. You were just stating facts about the show. Yeah. That's all the listener mail we got.
Okay, so we'll be right back after this to talk about Severance.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Are you taking a month-long vacation in the stratosphere and you know how hard it is to hold your breath? Are you the cosmic kid in full costume dress? You've got a nice little place in the podcast universe with Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is your podcast for all things Bruce Springsteen fandom. We discuss his music, we talk about his tour, and we also talk to fans of other musicians and share their story of their passion, their fandom, and the way that their favorite artist music makes them feel. Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen fan podcast, is available wherever you find podcast. Remember, there is magic in the night.
And now, back to Unscripted.
Okay, Skip, we're back.
So we're going to talk about the Apple TV Plus show Severance, which actually aired in 2022, Josh. It's crazy how long ago this was. I was doing my research yesterday, and I actually had to read the synopsis of each episode because I didn't have time to rewatch the show, but it's been so long since I watched it that it's really not fresh in my mind. So this could be an interesting episode for us because I don't know what I remember. I know what it's about and I know the key points and I know all the main stuff, but it's just not as fresh in my mind as it should be. Now, just for all the hardcore listeners, you know that when we did our best of 2022, this was my number one show of 2022. And I was shocked last year when you told me that you watched it because I really don't feel that it's the kind of show that you would like. It's a little bit too weird for you, I think. You like to really understand the show. When you don't understand it or when there's something that's like a little bit of a question mark, that's not good for you. And this show is 1,000 question marks with no answers. Like there's literally everything you're going to ask me, you're going to tell me, explain me this. This is what's going to happen in about 5 minutes from now. You're going to ask me to explain you stuff and I'm not going to be able to explain you anything. And I'm going to tell you that's just the way it is. Like, let's just have a question mark and maybe we'll figure it out and maybe we won't. That's most of how this show kind of operates, you know?
However, everything that happens in the show, except for the part when they go up and down the elevator, everything else that happens in the show makes perfect sense.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess. But I mean, the elevator bothers you? Like, let's just jump right in. The elevator bothers you?
No,
like,
it doesn't
there's something
bother.
about the
It doesn't
elevator.
bother me. It doesn't bother me. But it's not like a show. It's not like, I don't know. I can't think of a show right now that, I never liked X-Files. Maybe that's a good comparison.
Right.
I'm not sure. But it's not like that.
Yeah.
Like
I get it.
the actual dialogue and everything that goes on while they're at work, and even the dialogue and everything that goes on when they're not at work, is all actually normal.
Yeah.
The only thing that's
I
weird
understand what you're
is
saying.
the part in the elevator. That's it.
Because for as dark as this show is, and it is dark in its theme, I mean, we're talking about a show about a company who puts a medical procedure into its employees. So then when they are at work, they only know that they're at work and they don't remember their outside world self. And when they are on the outside, they don't know what they do inside work. So there's like the terminology of the show, the innies and the outies. Like, and you almost have two lives when you go through this severance procedure. So, I mean, we're talking about like a pretty dark subject, but the show is done in such a way that I don't want to say it's funny. It's not a comedy, but it could be considered like an ultra dark comedy. Like there's this light kind of feel to the show in even though it's super dark in what's happening. People die and like they're showing people getting drilled into their brains and there's all kinds of wacky stuff going on, like crazy. I mean, maybe this whole thing is a cult. We didn't even get into the details yet, but anyways, that's just my overall thoughts.
And yet, I found myself laughing out loud at several times during the show. Which is why I like the show. Because so many funny things happen during the show. So many funny things.
I like it because it's a kind of show that makes you think about stuff. It's so different than everything else that you watch, right? You watch, like, there's so many police dramas, crime dramas, situation comedies, like the romance, like you can't categorize this. And it's just so different than anything else that we've seen. The writing, the production, everything is just so different that when I started watching it, it sucked me in immediately because I was like, this is not something that I've seen before, right? I haven't seen anything like this before. So that's what kind of drew me in. And then some of the performances are really great. The way it looks is really great. Some of the weird stuff, it's just like you can't get around all the weird stuff. So we jumped right in before we said, by the way, spoilers. This whole thing is spoilers. Everything we're going to talk about is spoilers. I think that's kind of understood, right?
Right. So some people may only be able to listen to 12 minutes of this episode.
Perfect. So how do you want, look, when I did my notes of like last time of Only Murders, I had like my favorite characters, my least favorite characters, my favorite scenes, my least favorite scenes, and then my overall impressions. Today I've got double the amount of notes, and they are all over the place. Like there's no rhyme or reason to like how I wrote stuff down and what I did. Like I don't know. I can just go through them one by one, but it's totally out of order and out of context. So like I don't know. How do you want to start?
Yeah, same with me. I don't have any structure to my notes. I wrote down things that I liked about the show. Sometimes I write down things that I don't like about the show, but I didn't have any of those for this show, actually.
Were there any characters or performances that you liked more than others? I mean, Adam Scott is the lead. He steals the show. I think he's really good in his role as the main character, Mark. And Dylan is really great. His fuzzy-haired coworker who's kind of wacky, like he's the comedic element. I feel that the girl Helly, it does her role well. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, well, no, finish your thoughts on the characters and then I'll tell you mine.
Sure. I think Helly is really good. And then I really like the two characters, Bert and Irving, like the guys who work in the other department. What is their department called? It's called Optics and Design.
Okay, sure.
So, but I mean, these are famous actors, right? It's John Turturro and Christopher Walken, right? And even though they have like a secondary part of the plot, I feel like in season 2, like what they're doing and how it left off with them is going to be pretty important, right? So it's kind of like a secondary. I mean, throughout the show, Mark is kind of investigating like what happened because he just has a bad feeling about everything. Things are not making sense to him, right? When he's in the outside and when he's in the inside, like he for whatever reason we can't explain, like the severance procedure maybe didn't work as well for him because he senses that there's something wrong, and Bert and Irving are kind of doing the same thing, especially Irving. At the end he finds like all this paperwork and documentation that he has been investigating, and it leads to the other guy's address, like they know each other out, like their outies know each other, but they didn't know it, right? Like not only do they know each other, they're a couple, aren't they? Or maybe they were. Like it's hard to explain. Like I don't know. Like I don't know.
Well, every time you say Bert and Irving, all I can think about is Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it is interesting that like the two most famous actors, John Turturro and Christopher Walken, are not the lead actors in this show.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to have a bigger role in season 2, but that's what I like about the show. Like the two main characters to me, Mark and Helly, I've never seen these actors before in my life.
Oh, you don't know Adam Scott?
Not from before this, no.
He's mostly been in comedy shows. That's why it's weird that he's here.
Okay, well, he does have I really like his voice. And the thing is, he could say almost anything. Like he could say the most innocuous statement and I will laugh because of his voice. But it's the way he talks that makes me laugh. For example, he's in a commercial. I don't know if you know, he's in this commercial for an American commercial called Tax Act. You don't actually see him. You only hear his voice. You don't see him at all. And It's a very boring commercial, because who wants to do their taxes, right? And yet, when I hear his voice, I start laughing.
What did you think about Patricia Arquette as Mrs. Coble?
She plays two different people. She plays Harmony Cobell, and she also plays Miss Selvig.
She's like the only one, or maybe one of the other workers of Lumon, like that's kind of like knows what's going on, or maybe knows what's going on. Like she can exist inside and outside, but without she hasn't been severed, but she's somehow allowed to be in the building, right? Like
yeah, but she never goes. I don't think she goes up and down the elevator. She only stays upstairs.
She's right.
She never goes downstairs.
Yes. This is why we got to talk this through. We got to talk this out.
Right. So I mean, she did a really good job in her role. I mean, she had to play technically two different characters, although and they are different. Like the neighbor, Miss Selvig, is like she pretends to be this older lady who needs help, taking out her garbage and shoveling her snow. And then when she's Harmony Cobell, she's like this ruthless boss at the office who wants everything done her way.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet she always has to report to the board, who you never see, by the way.
We've never seen the board. The board is like Charlie's Angels. It's just on a speakerphone or else on a computer.
Right, right.
Yeah, it is weird. Like, I don't know. Is there a board? Like, who's the board? We don't know. The board is actually a big question mark in season 2. Like, are we going to find out? Like, is there a board? What is it? You know?
So a few scenes that I really liked from
Yes.
season 1. I really liked the scene where, and I think it's in episode 1, where Helly is asleep on a table. They had just implanted this thing in her brain, and she's waking up from the surgery, and she's on this table, and she doesn't know where she is, and she doesn't know why she's there, and she hears this voice from like the loudspeaker because Mark is in the other room talking to her, but she can't see Mark, and she's trying to get out of the room, and the door's locked, so she can't. And she starts throwing things, I think, and trying to break things. I mean, I would have had the same exact reaction as her, and she did that really well, I thought.
Well,
so
the other part with Helly that's really great is a few episodes later, she makes the official request to like desever. Like, she's like, I want out of here. So she's like, okay, I'm going to get out. So she figures like the next time she comes, they're going to tell her you can go home. But then they show her the video of herself, the outie version of herself, denying her request to be desevered, right? So like the real her or the outside her consented to this, you know? So, but the innie her hates it, right? And then, I mean, she tries to kill herself after because of this, right? Like to force their hand to like get her out. It's like, she's really well done. Like when she tries to desever and then they deny it.
Another scene I really liked, she's trying to like give herself a message. You know, you can't even write something on a Post-it note and take it with you because apparently it just won't go with you. So she writes something on a Post-it note. She puts it in the cap of a Sharpie, and then she's planning to swallow the cap.
Right.
But Mark catches her doing this, and she doesn't end up doing it. But the whole like process of her trying to swallow the cap and everything is quite funny, actually.
There's a lot of great scenes. I think Helly, who had not seen in anything else, I think she really did a great job. And then, you know, of course, at the end, like one of the big questions leading into season 2 is like, we find out that she's the daughter of like the head of the company, right? So like she's somehow like consented to this whole thing, this whole severance thing. And, you know, they do the procedure where, you know, Dylan is holding on to the two levers at the same time. There's a name to what they're talking. Oh yeah, the overtime contingency. This is what it's called, right? Where like their innie is able to see the outside, you know, like at the same time, like their consciousness like kind of come together. And it comes together for her at the big party, board meeting, fundraiser thingy that she's at with her family. So that's certainly like going to be a big part of the next season, I'm assuming, right?
That episode was amazing. And then, yes, she's, you know, they have a few minutes or maybe they had an hour where the innie and the outie know what's going on. And she
they would have had more time as long as Dylan could hold the levers at the same time. But the other guy, Milchick, breaks in and stops him, right?
Right. And she has to go on stage and talk about this experience. And she's about to say how terrible it is. But then all of a sudden, he lets go because like Milchick interrupted him. And so now she's back to her normal self. So I'm curious to see what she actually ends up saying.
I mean, there's the big, I'm glad you mentioned the like episode 9, the final episode is great because it all kind of comes together as much as it could come together because it only leaves us with more questions. So it doesn't come together fully, really. But it really all comes together and we see like the innies and the outie sides of the main characters kind of, you know, like they finally get the awareness. So like, of course, like Helly's inside versus outside. But then the big thing is with Mark and his wife that he thought is dead, which was the whole reason why he severed, because he couldn't handle the grief and he just didn't want to be in the outside world anymore, supposedly. He comes to the revelation that she's likely still alive because he's seen her in the office. She's like the counselor that they go to talk to, you know? So the show, the season ends with the revelation of she's alive right as Dylan is forced to let go of the levers and that's kind of where it ends, right?
What was also crazy is so Mark is at his brother-in-law's house for that book for that book launch, and
Yeah.
Miss Selvig is there too.
Oh my God.
So, but
she
at
realizes.
At first, Mark thinks it's Miss Selvig, right? Because first he's his outie, and then he becomes his innie, and so then he sees her as Harmony Cobell. But like he doesn't think anything's weird because he knows Harmony Cobell, but he doesn't address her by name.
But when he calls her by the wrong name, she knows that something's up. Right? She clues in that something's wrong.
And then he tells his sister what's going on. Like he has a few minutes to tell her, and then again the episode ends, and I don't know. It was a really amazing way to end season 1 because like I can't wait to watch the first episode of season 2. I can't wait.
100%. And when we talked about this, like, I don't know, 6 months ago or what? No, I don't want to say 6 months ago. When we talked about this shortly after you had watched it, you know, you said, well, aren't they going to wrap it up in the first episode of season 2? I don't think they are. They're going to just stretch it out. It's going to be a whole thing, you know? So.
I looked. There's going to be 10 episodes in season 2. They've already got them listed. And if you go to IMDb, you can even see there's some new actors that are going to be in season 2, and they've listed the names of the actors. Like they don't have their character name or what they're going to be doing, but you can see who the actors are going to be in season 2.
I think I saw that there's some pretty well-known people, right?
I don't remember who it was. When I looked, I don't remember, but they do have them listed there.
Right. So a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Well, I mean, I'm glad this kind of came together better than I thought it would, our discussion. Can we talk about like The Office? Like I love The Office where they work. I love it. Because,
okay, so it's funny because I wrote down things that I really liked, and I'm sure you're going to have the same things on your list.
Well, I mean, they live in modern times. They live in 2023, supposedly, when they're outside. And when they go inside and they go down the elevator, they come out, and they're basically like in the 1980s, maybe. I don't know. It has like an 80s feel. There's these green walls, white, like everything is like old-fashioned. They feel like they're in like a high school from the 80s, like it looks like that, or a hospital maybe. It seems weird. And then the computers that they work on are like Apple IIe. I don't know. They're like they're old, you know.
It reminds me of the first computer I ever used when I was in grade 9.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what it reminded me of.
What do you think? Like the whole set design and overall look of the inside of Lumon is amazing, right? It's like you've stepped into like this. You know that where you are is out of place. Like, even if it's supposed to be the 80s, let's say they tell us this is 1982, it's still out of place because it's not quite right. You know, it's just,
but they don't know that because they're severed. So they think it's perfectly normal.
What do they actually do in macro data refinement? Like, what is their job? Do you know? Like, do you have an idea? Like, what's your feeling about this?
I honestly, here's what I think. First of all, I have no idea what they do. It looks like they're playing Tetris, but I have no idea. But I don't think
it does look like they're playing Tetris or something along those lines. You know?
I don't think it even matters what they're doing. I think the whole purpose or premise is like they've signed up to do this because they want to forget something that happened in their lives. So they go to this place for 7 or 8 hours a day, and they forget everything. So it doesn't really matter what they're actually doing. They're just not cognizant of what's going on in their real life.
Whatever they're doing is just supposed to keep them busy for the 8 hours that they're there.
That's what I think, yes.
So it's the same thing in the other department where Bert and Irving work. Like, and it's also weird because the two departments, optics and design and macro data, they're like separate, right? And they've been told like to hate each other. Like there's animosity between the departments. Like there's some kind of, feud going on. Like, their work, like the other people, then they find out like in the other department, they're making like watering cans, like it's like a plastic printer, or I don't know what it is. It's just the whole thing is bizarre what goes on over there. But when the two groups finally do meet up and then they come to their work and then they go to their work, it's actually really quite charming. It's like kind of like the détente, like things are like cool, like we don't have any reason to hate each other. I just like that part. I thought it was really, really well done.
I mean, not only are they two separate departments, you need like a map to figure out how to get there because the whole place is a maze.
Yeah.
And so,
well, that's a big part of the plot, right? Because, Mark finds like the map that PD started to draw, I think, and then he continues it, right? And they have this map on a piece of paper, but like they can't take it out. They like it's like this big secret, like the map that they're trying to draw. Like it's just very clever.
By the way, speaking of the map, that was on the back of a photo that had all 4 of them. So when they hired a new person, they had to take a new photo and then they had to make 4 copies of it and insert it into the frame, which each person has on their desk. It's so like, it reminds me of like elementary school on photo day where everyone gets the same exact photo of the entire class. It was just so weird.
I wanted to ask you more about The Office, because one of the best, most funny parts of the show is the perks. Now, if you understand like what I'm talking about, like, so if they reach like a certain amount of their goal, like of their video game playing, or if they're making the watering cans and the whatever else they're making, like I guess every department has their own goals. Like you have department goals in your work, so do I also. So when they meet like certain percentages of their goal, they get different perks. So like the lowest perk is they could get erasers. You can get the music dance experience, which we did see. Actually, someone did get that.
Okay, so
And then,
don't hold on. I want to talk about the music dance experience.
Sure.
Because that was so funny to me. I think they bring in a television on a cart that has wheels. Again, reminded me of when I was in elementary school or high school. And
anytime the teacher brought in the overhead projector, you knew it was going to be a fun day.
Right. And this television, it's like the oldest television ever. Again, this is such a modern company,
so
and yet they have these
so
old
old.
TVs from like the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
And then so they have the party, right? And there's cake because it's a party, right? And then they start dancing. And like it's the weirdest thing. Like it's just so weird to see them dancing at this party. And because like I think it was Helly that won that she won, like you get to have your party, so she gets to pick the music, right? They told her. And I don't know why she picked the song that she picked. I don't even know what song it was, but it was just so weird. And again, this is another part that made me laugh. This is why I was telling you I was laughing out loud throughout the entire show.
Well, I mean, some of the other perks are also crazy, right? Because they could get caricature portraits of themselves, which you've seen. They have the drawings. And then, of course, like at one point they win the melon bar. So it's like you get the bar of different melon balls. And then the big one, there's the egg social. Like there's a lot of stuff with eggs in this show. By the way, there's eggs seem to be, they're in different places, but you can get the pre-waffle party egg bar social, which I think Dylan wins. They get it before the waffle party. And then the big thing is the waffle party. Like the waffle party is like the thing that they strive for, right? But you figure like the waffle party is like they come out and they give you waffles with fruit and syrup, but that's not that. It's that, but it's also like weird dancing, like this kind of erotica stuff going on. It's bizarre stuff like the waffle party. Like it's crazy bizarre. There's other stuff that's mentioned. They say that it's mentioned, but I don't think we saw them. Paintball and coffee cozies. Like I read this online, but I don't know if we ever saw them, but they were mentioned apparently in the show that you can get these coffee cozies. And I think Dylan really wants the coffee cozy. Dylan likes the perks. He's fully invested until he realizes that he has a kid on the outside world. He's 100% like,
yeah, he's
severed.
drinking the
Like,
Kool-Aid for sure.
He's a true believer. Like he's going to do whatever they tell him. He wants the perks. He wants to get the goals, It's only when he starts to realize something's wrong because the others lead him that way, then he's like, I mean, he volunteers to do the 2 levers, right? He volunteers to do it, right?
Right. But also he's the one that he reported one of his coworkers for going to the other department.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
He's very by the book until he realizes that he has a family on the outside. He's very by the book.
Yeah. Do you have a break room at your office?
Yeah, we sort of do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the break room in this show is not the break room that you think. This is the break room is something they fear, right? So when they're punished, they go to the break room, and it's not where you take a break; it's where they break you. Maybe like it's not a fun experience. I don't think the break room.
Right, but you also don't know how long they're in there. Like they could be in there for 8 hours. They could be in there for 8 seconds. You can't tell.
Well, I think there's no concept of time in the show. A lot of cases, right? I think it's trying to like show you maybe the experience of what it's like to be inside, right? Where Could you imagine, like, you drive to work, 9 o'clock in the morning, you get out of your car, you go into your desk, you get in the elevator, and then literally 1 minute later, you come down the elevator and it's 5 o'clock. And you don't, like, the 8 hours of your day just happens in a blink, and you don't even know what happened. I think the concept of time is intentionally kind of blurry here to, like, get you to feel that, you know?
Right, but the outie knows that it's been 8 hours because when they show up in the morning, it's whatever, 9 a.m. And when they leave in the afternoon, it's 5 p.m.
Yeah, no, I mean, they know, but it's still weird, right?
It is weird. It is weird. The other weird thing is, so you didn't even mention this. You're saying about how the office is laid out and decorated and whatever. And by the way, there are no decorations. Like
it's just have flat walls.
Well, that's actually Bert's job is to hang up photos.
But there's a lot of artwork. Artwork is important in the not in the office, but if they go to the certain rooms in the office, there's artwork, because the artwork is supposed to depict like the history of the family and the company and all. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
But I mean, so actually that's Bert's job, right? He goes and switches out the paintings that are hung up every so often. I don't know how often he does it, but that's not even what I wanted to mention. So there's 4 of them that work in this department, right? And there's like, it's basically one desk that has 4 dividers. So they're all like sitting very, very close to each other, although they have dividers between them. But they're in this huge room that is completely empty otherwise, which is such a big waste of space. It's the funniest thing.
It is ridiculous. And then it's that you're talking about the macro data room, like where Helly and Mark work?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then the other office where Bert works, like at first it's just like the 2 of them, and then they open up and there's like a secret room and there's like 1,000,000 desks, and like, who sits at those desks? There's only 2 guys, you know? Like,
no, but it turns out there's more people in their department. You find out later.
But did they know or did they not know? The whole thing is,
I don't know.
Like I said right at the beginning before we recorded this, like, I'm not going to have any answers. And I think you're not supposed to have answers. You're supposed to just let it all soak in and wash over you and just enjoy the ride. I think that's what you're supposed to do with this show. Just enjoy the ride. If you try to start figuring out all the meanings of stuff, you can go down like 6 million rabbit holes and maybe you could figure out stuff. But I mean, that's up to you.
So yeah, I mean, the only other thing I wanted to mention is my favorite episodes were the first one and the last one. The first one because you're trying to figure out what's going on here. You don't really quite understand. I understood a little bit because you had told me about it before I watched it, but I watched it through the lens of not knowing anything. I tried to forget everything that you told me. And then, of course, the last episode was amazing because it's such an amazing cliffhanger that I can't wait to watch the next one.
Right.
So those were my 2 favorite episodes, for sure.
So I started talking about this show like last year with a coworker who's obsessed with it. And like, he's researched tons of stuff and whatever. And he sent me this link, and I'm going to post an article to, it's hard to send the link because it's on Apple Books. And I don't know if everybody's on that, but I'll send a link to an article about it. There's Apple. If you go like on Apple Books, you can get a free book, which is a short story based in the Severance world. It's another character who works at Lumon that we don't know. It's like a separate story taking place at the same time with new characters. And part of this, book is the employee handbook of Lumon. You could read the employee handbook.
This
right?
is hilarious.
So for the hardcore people that really want to know every detail and know what it's like just try to figure out every answer. I think this is the kind of thing that it's quite clever that the show with Apple put this out, right? It's there for the super fans, right? So let's get to our ratings. Overall, I love this show. I told you that I loved it. I would recommend it to everybody. I think, like, at first I thought, like, if you could like it, Josh, if you could like this show, then I think anybody could like it. Because I didn't think it was for you. Like, honestly, I didn't think it was for you. And also, my wife thoroughly enjoyed it. So I would recommend it to anybody. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 waffle parties.
So I'm going to echo your sentiments. I would recommend the show, and I'm also going to give it 4.5 melon balls.
Next time you come over, we'll have a melon bar.
Excellent. Okay, we'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Do you know John Hyatt songs?
Maybe you know them from being covered by Roseanne Cash, Three Dog Night, the Neville Brothers, Emmylou Harris, Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Jeff Healey, Bonnie Raitt, or literally hundreds of others.
Maybe you have some of his albums on your shelf, or in your cow-horned Cadillac right now.
I'm Jesse Jackson,
And I'm Sylvan Brough.
and we're going to dive in from A to Z. Join us on the Perfectly Good podcast.
We're going to discuss all of your favorites and uncover some forgotten gems, from Aces Up Your Sleeve to Zero House.
Rate and debate every John Hyatt song on the Perfectly Good podcast. Have a little faith.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
You know, this show has an effect on our lives. This is episode 294 of our podcast, Josh. And, you know, sometimes things happen during the 2-week period where we in between recordings. And I mean, obviously we text and we talk outside of the show. Like, we text every day, you know, there's always something. But something came up this past week that I was dying to talk to you about. I was like, I'm dying to talk to you about it. And I'm like, you know what? Josh is probably going to text me a link to this article about this thing because it's 100% something that we would talk about, but I want to save it for the show. So like, it's really bizarre that I didn't want to talk to you about this thing because like I wanted to save it. And then you said, "Oh, I know what you're talking about." In text, you're like, "I know what you want to talk about." So like, what do you think I want to talk about? Like, are we on the same page, or did you misread the situation? Or?
No, I think, and you know, again, we haven't talked about it. We just said that there's something we want to talk about. I wrote it down on my list of things, and I think you wrote it down on your list of things, and I think it's the exact same thing.
Okay, well, what is it?
It's that St. Viator has started to make bagels with no holes in them.
Oh my God. That's exactly it.
So
the question here in Montreal the last 2 weeks is a bagel with no hole still a bagel?
So in my opinion, no, it's not. I'm not even sure where to start talking about this.
I know, it's so weird. So let's just preface this. So do you understand that it's not just St. Viator Bagel here in Montreal that's doing this? This is a promotional campaign made by Kraft, made by Philadelphia Cream Cheese.
Right.
And they've picked 5 bagel places in North America, one in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, I think, and Seattle, and one here in Montreal, St. Viator Bagel, which is like one of the big 2, you know, original bagel shops in Montreal. And they decided to make bagels with no holes so that you could put more cream cheese on your bagel. Now, Josh, let me tell you, I went to St. Viator Bagel last Saturday night at 10 p.m. Not the original location, not the one out here near me.
You went all the way there?
Well, we had dinner in the city and we said, let's go check out these holeless bagels.
Okay.
So, of course, you know, I mean, I don't know how long it's been since you've been there, but there's always a lineup. Regardless, there's always a lineup.
Mm-hmm,
but there was a big line, and every person in line was getting the holeless bagels. So the campaign is clearly working because it's made curiosity. Now, these holeless bagels are only available like for 2 more days. Like it's finished. It was a 2-week thing, and then they're gone. You know. So I did get them.
Can you get one and freeze it and save it for me?
It's too late. We ate them all. But maybe I could go back today. I think I still have 2 days to do it. It's not worth having. Like, I mean, it's worth having out of the curiosity factor of the whole thing. But like, first of all, no, it's not a bagel. I agree with you. It's a roll. Like once you start to make a bagel with no hole, it's not a bagel. Like that's the whole point of it. But it is good the way they've done it because I thought it was just going to be a roll, but it's not. They've actually. Did you see a picture of what it looks like? Or
I'm looking online. I see what it looks like online, but you know.
So it's like they took the bagel, instead of rolling it into a circle, they rolled it into a swirl, right?
Yeah,
like
a cinnamon spiral Danish or something.
Exactly. It is like a Danish, but not sweet, with sesame seeds on top. So like, did I like it? I liked it. I thought it was okay. I'm happy I tried it because it was a gimmick and it was fun and it was a cute thing to do. But no, it's not a bagel. But like the fact that I texted you saying I'm dying to talk to you about something, but I don't want to ruin it, and I know you're going to talk to me about it, and then you wrote back saying I know what it is, we'll save it for the show. It's just beyond. It's just. I mean, I think that speaks to the whole idea of unscripted, right? Because that's what this is.
When I was reading the story, I think I read somewhere where it said that Kraft Heinz, who creates the Philadelphia cream cheese, they were getting feedback from people. I don't believe any of this. They were getting feedback from people that it's too difficult to spread cream cheese on a bagel that has a hole in the middle. So they've solved that problem.
Well, actually, you don't think that you have a problem because you never had problems spreading your cream cheese on your bagel. Like,
no, I've never had a problem doing that.
But when you spread the cream cheese on this bagel without a hole, as I was doing it, I was like, oh, it is much easier because you don't have to worry about the hole, right? You just spread it across, right? So like, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that you can spread more cream cheese easier on your flat surface,
this is just a ploy by Kraft for you to use more cream cheese, for them to sell more cream cheese.
I mean, when you walk into the St. Viator Bagel, they have the big signs there with the craft and the hashtags and the whole campaign. Like this is part of it, I think it's brilliant. I think it's fun. Why not do it? It's 2 weeks. They're going to sell more bagels. They're going to sell more cream cheese. That's what they want to do. And I think for people like me who are suckers, my father used to always tell me I was the biggest sucker because as soon as there's something new, I have to try it. So I knew I was going to get these bagels. Like I had to try them. There's no doubt in my mind I had to try them. I
mean, if I was in Montreal, I would have 100% gone to try it. So I'm a little disappointed that I'm not there, that by the time I go there, they'll be gone. Because I would like to try one just to say that I tried one and see what the whole fuss is about.
It's too funny. The whole thing is just the whole thing is just hysterical. Honestly, I just think it's brilliant and brings attention, and it's a fun thing to do. So, do you have any other final thoughts other than bagels? Super Bowl's tomorrow. What do you like? What do you think? You going to a party? What are you doing? What are you eating?
Well, I'm gonna go to Joe's, because that's where I go for the Super Bowl every year. I'm sure Joe will have good food. I'm going to make Pillsbury Doughboy cookies, as I do every year.
Very good. Very good.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a rooting interest. I'm just, when New England is not in it, and there's no chance they were going to be in it this year, I don't have to root for anyone to lose because New England's not in it. So I'm not going to be disappointed at the end of the game. I'm also not going to be happy at the end of the game. So, it's fine. What are you doing for the Super Bowl?
We're having it here. I think it's like a few years in a row that we had Super Bowl at our house with my son and his group of friends. It's starting to be like a little bit of a tradition. So I'm going to make food. I'm not 100% sure of the menu yet. Could be chili, could be smoked meat, could be both. It depends on, I'm about to go shopping for that stuff right now. We'll see. But yeah, it should be like a really fun time. Honestly, like for me, this Super Bowl is really fun because like my son really includes me and his friends do too. Like I'm included in their group of friends when it comes to this, like it's not like I'm like, can I watch with you guys? Like the assumption is like, I'm watching with them, like I'm part of it. So it is really like, it's really nice. I really like it.
That's great. You're lucky that your son includes you and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. Anyways, I love talking to you about Severance. It was amazing. And enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow. And I'll speak to you next time.
Have a great week.